It is 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the Common Council to order for Monday, December 21st. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Mayor Burcho?
Here.
District 1 Morset?
Here.
District 2 Elms?
Here.
District 5 Hoggett?
Here.
District 6 Hall? Here.
This time, we, any citizens in the audience that would like to speak to the council, now's their time on any item that is not on the agenda. Seeing no one here that would want to speak to the, we'll move on. Discussion and possible action on consent agenda. Madam Clerk.
To approve the regular and closed session meeting minutes of December 7th, 2015, and special meeting minutes of December 9th, 2015. To approve claims for payment in the amount of $440,041.56. A detailed description is available in the clerk's office on request and is posted on the city's website. Contingent on payment of any outstanding debt owed to the city and successful completion of the background check. Approve the issuance of two regular operators licenses for the period December 22nd, 2015 to June 30th, 2017 to Jacob Burning and Francis McClellan III. To approve the attached list of names as they have expressed interest in being appointed as election inspector. If approved by council, their term will be effective from January 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2017, with the additional consideration that they may also serve as special registration deputies or special voting deputies as needed for election-related duties at the qualifying community-based residential facilities after training has been successfully completed. The list of names is attached. To place on file the EMS Commission minutes of December 15th, 2015, quarterly report of the Public Works and Parks Director, and the Public Utility Commission minutes of December 15th, 2015.
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Morset?
Yes.
Hoggett?
Yes.
Alms?
Yes.
And Hall?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is Planning Commission discussion possible action on CSM, one lot 92.46 acres located north of Cooley Road and west of Carmichael Road, Hanson Brothers 12. Mr. Darnold.
Evening.
Good evening.
The certified survey map will create one parcel for the intention of transfer of property from Hanson Brothers 12 to Honsagen Homes or MI Homes. This would be the area where the planned residential development is proposed. Plan Commission recommends approval of the proposed certified survey map. One parcel, 92.46 acre outlot, located west of Carmichael Road and north of Cooley Road as proposed by Hanson Brothers 12 LLC with the following conditions. The parcel is identified as an outlot, and the significance of that is if it's identified as a lot, it's a developable parcel which has to be served with sanitary sewer and water. This will be an undevelopable parcel until future subdivisions come in. Second condition is proposed certified survey map will not be executed by the City of Hudson until the use restrictions are lifted from the Hanson Brothers 12 property.
Questions for Mr. Darnold?
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Yeah, just one final comment. Essentially, by doing this, the transfer of the property between the Hanson Brothers and Honsagen Homes. Currently, we've been dealing with two parties. Then this property be exclusively owned by Honsagen Homes, excuse me.
The new company, and I can't think of the name.
Or MI
MI, yeah.
Homes. And so the City of Hudson would be dealing exclusively with that party versus two parties. So it does help clarify and simplify the process for the city and for Honsagen Homes.
Okay. Thank you, Denny. Next item has been withdrawn. The liquor license application. Next item on the agenda is discussion, possible action on the position description for an operations supervisor position with St. Croix EMS and to authorize city administrator to begin the recruitment process for this position. Denny, or Devin, you have anything?
Nope, this was approved in the budget for the 2016 year. We'll get the process rolling next week so that we'll have advertisement probably through the end of January.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Just checking on that plan commission. Was there a vote on that plan commission item?
Yes,
Okay. Okay, let's make sure.
we did, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a vote. Yeah.
Okay,
I
thank,
thought I said aye.
Yep, well, that's
Yeah.
fine. I just want to make sure.
okay. Thank you. Discussion, possible action on repair or replacement of emergency siren at Oak Street and identifying the funding sources. Chief, are you want to give everybody an update on that again?
All right, as I told the finance committee earlier, the siren on Oak Street behind the high school quit working back in November. We had the company come out and check it out. They were unable to repair it. And we're looking at replacing it right now with a new system that'd be compatible with all the other sirens in the city.
So what finance decided to do or recommend to do was to go out and get tell him that he wants the full replacement and then what was going to cost to install it, and then bring it back to the council. Is there a motion to approve this?
So moved. Yes.
And one of you two, you want to second it? Just raise your hand if you want a second. Okay, thank you. Discussion, questions? Bill or Joyce, you were here for, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next one is item D, is discussion possible action on the purchase of a vehicle for wastewater department.
This is for a 2016 Ford F-550. It is replacing our current crane truck that we have. We did go out and get state pricing compared to local pricing. The recommendation is that we purchase local. We can actually get it a little bit cheaper.
Didn't have the snowplow unit on it.
It did not have the snowplow, correct?
But the Hudson Ford one did.
Yes.
There was one question I forgot to ask you. What are you doing with the old truck? You gonna get rid of it?
More than likely.
Okay.
I don't know if it'd even pass inspection or
Yep.
anything like that.
Well,
It's pretty, it's used.
We kind
Its
of,
time is over.
Well used.
so we don't like to accumulate used pickups and trucks and, because everybody seems to want them, so the more we can get them off and sold, and I think there's an auction that we've used before to get rid of them.
Sometimes though, when Marty has his auction, whenever
Yeah.
that is, that they
Yeah.
can be sold for that.
So if you don't need it, let's get rid of it.
Yeah, I agree.
We sold up some of our equipment at that public surplus auction and had pretty good success.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Is there a motion to approve this?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion and possible action on letter of engagement for utility locations, data collection and GIS mapping. Thomas?
Yes, thank you. The council has previously budgeted for MS4 permitting and compliance as part of the 2016 stormwater utility. And one of the initial steps for that compliance would be to update the stormwater mapping, which would be some field inventory, data collection, followed by creation of a base map on that existing storm sewer system. The mapping and GIS inventory component is also something that's needed for the water utility as well as the sanitary sewer wastewater system in the city. Staff has had numerous discussions relative to this, Tom Zulli and Kip Peters amongst others. And we're thinking at this time would be, from an efficiency point of view, to do all three utilities, storm, sanitary, and water at the same time. We've also had numerous discussions with SEH, one of the city consultants, to define a scope and budget and what needs to be done relative to this data collection and base map process. We have a letter of engagement attached that defines the scope and budget going forward with that consultant. From a timing perspective, we're a little bit under the gun relative to the storm sewer. We're about a year and 3 months from now, we're due an annual report that says what steps we've started and where we are in our compliance relative to the MS4. So it's pretty good timing for us to get going on this thing, and it's actually, as you said earlier, Mr. Mayor, this has been talked about for, I think, a year, quite some time relative to the city. So right now, relative to a funding source, we're looking at the storm sewer portion, an amount about $65,000. We do have a successful grant application from the DNR that will help offset that. We're waiting for an agreement at this time from the DNR so that we can execute that agreement. About $70,000 of that budget would come from the wastewater utility, and again, that was discussed with KIP, as well as about $87,000 from the water utility, bringing the total estimated amount of this project to about $222,000. With that, I guess I'd open up for questions relative to, but the staff recommendation at this point is to approve the letter of engagement for SEH to proceed with this, and the estimated amount of $222,000.
You're going to be checking on that on a monthly basis?
Yes,
so that-
we discussed that a little bit in the finance committee. There's quite a bit of unknowns relative to the existing system, literally thousands of manholes. The storm sewer system hasn't been updated since 2008. There's been numerous projects in the city that have added manholes, catch basins, system, that pipes, those types of things. So our intent is to monitor this estimated amount on a monthly basis and judge completion with remaining budget and that type of thing.
So, Bill or Joyce, do you have any questions? Randy or?
No, but I'll move for approval for the $222,000 estimation.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion, thoughts?
It's gonna be a great deal.
This is a good, I agree with you, John, this is, excuse me. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Stay right where you're at. We have a discussion and possible action on special assessment policies. I think one of the things that we asked you, or were you able to, and I'm having trouble with my computer. You did get it. Grandview Drive?
Yes, we discussed the topic of the assessment policy at a workshop on December 9th. We discussed the current policy, possible revisions, the funding sources relative, and again, this discussion was primarily street rehab or street reconstruction type projects as opposed to utility, sewer and water type projects. We went over some of the 2015 street projects that were completed and assessed this last summer. And we also went through some examples of some assessments from other communities. One of the things in leaving the meeting is council requested some existing, or some, let's say, some more examples. And one of the existing projects that the city assessed in 2012 was Grandview Avenue, just north of Vine Street. That was a total reconstruct. So what I did, put a couple of examples together, and they're kind of numbered 1 A, B, and C, and 2 A, B, C, D. A couple of the first examples were a little bit of a follow-up on the 2015 projects from this last summer. If you look at the attachment, 1A is a map of Aspen Drive. And again, we talked about this one previously, that it was about a $88,000 project, of which only about 8% was assessed. Reason why I attached the map for you just to look at is we did talk a little bit about the existing policy, and it was a little bit cumbersome relative to administering things. And what you can see from the map is this was a selective curb replacement project, and you can see how it's very, let's say, variable as to what curbs get removed, and then how it impacts the assessment. The next 2 pages are actually the final assessment that goes with that Aspen project. And again, I wasn't trying to smother you with paper, but yet you can just kind of briefly look at those 2 sheets and see that the assessments on the low end was $89.04. I think on the high end there's $112, and there was one $699. But you can kind of see from a magnitude perspective, a brand new street, curb to curb, and what resulting parcels were actually assessed. And in this particular case, it was on the multifamily side. These are 10-unit buildings, so that each of these drives were 20 units sharing. But again, I wanted to just kind of point that out just to see how that particular assessment worked. The next one there is, again, an example from this past summer, and that was Cooley Road. If you recall, we had a little bit of a discussion about commercial entities. Some communities assess commercial a little bit more than residential. And what I did there is you can actually see the 7 or 8 parcels that was assessed. The actual amounts are in the far right, and then in the margin on the far right is another number, and what that is that would represent, had the city assessed at 100% of the project cost, that would the resulting assessment is shown in that margin there. So instead of
That's half the street, right?
Pardon?
That's half the street?
No, that's if we would assess 100% of the project cost. $521,000 is the actual
Right.
total project cost.
But you only could do one side of the
Well,
street.
in this particular case, we only assessed half because you
Right.
probably would not win assessing I-94. Would be a good way to go.
We should try and
It'd
get
be
that
nice
from
if
the
you
state,
could
huh?
be successful, but, so
But it's
that's where.
basically half of it.
That's where that one became 50% because
right.
of the I-94 right away. Oh, excuse me. But you can see the magnitude that's really difference in our 15% that we assessed based on the current policy versus, so we brought in 81,006 in an assessment versus
260.
potentially could have been 260. Again, this was just put together from an informational standpoint. The Grandview Avenue is what the council wanted us to take a look at. So what you see there, the next sheet, 2A, is a map of Grandview. What's kind of interesting is, and we kind of thought this in our discussion last meeting, but basically this is a real consistent project relative to construction and assessment. You can kind of see most of these lots are the same size. No one really benefits any, it's real consistent from benefit and from the construction and everything else. And then the page behind that, 2B, shows the actual assessments for that project that was assessed in 2012. And then 2C is the next sheet, which basically is kind of just a general summary of the previous assessment. Again, Grandview Avenue is a $404,000 total project cost. That comes out about $209 per lineal foot of actual what you paid to build that street down Centerline. The assessment was about 17, almost 18%, so it brought in $71,009. Per the existing policy, how that was set up is 50% of the curb and gutter was assessed and 100% of driveway aprons. And there's an attached photo that you can kind of see the driveway apron would fit between the concrete curb and the concrete sidewalk. If you look at the map showed that 26 out of these 38 parcels were 90-foot width. So again, just real consistent in the project and real consistent in the average width of the lots. Resulted in an assessment of about $1,878 for those 38 parcels. Number 4 there, I guess, I wanted to show a couple things we talked about in just a couple different examples based on our policy. Our policy does have flexibility so that we can have a unit assessment or a front foot assessment. And in this particular example, you can see the unit assessment. There's 37 single family, the church is there. The church had about double the size of the lot, so if you wanted to call that 2 units. And again, and this is just kind of an example type calculation for you, but you can see if that entire $404,000 project cost was dispersed over the 39 units, it would be $10,380 a lot. Again, that's one method it could have been assessed. If you look at B, it's the same project assessed on a lineal foot basis. And you can see if you took the total length of all those lots and spread that assessment out over the 404,000, you end up with 10,002. So remarkably close if you come at it from a unit assessment versus a lineal foot. And I just wanted to point that out as that's one of the reasons that the policy has a little bit of flexibility there. Then C is basically a possible assessment with some revised policy. We talked potentially having a 50-50 split between what was assessed and what the city paid for. You can see that would result in about $55.70 a foot. So for the 90-foot lot, it'd be about a $5,000 assessment. Another example is the city went 2/3, 1/3, with the city picking up 2/3. The resulting assessment would be about $37 a foot, or again, for a 90-foot lot, about a $3,300 assessment for the 90-foot lot. So basically that C is just showing you how that would have worked out on that particular project with a revised assessment policy.
Questions for Tom? Anybody have any questions? I think Grandview was a good example of a pretty standard street that we'd redo. I think 50% is way too high. I just don't think, we're going from almost nothing. 33 would be or even 30 would be a good starting point to take a look at, in my opinion. I don't know what the rest of you are thinking.
I guess I tend to agree with you. I mean, 50s, wow, that's getting up there. And are we still then mixing that with just looking at a lot footage then versus, trying to calculate curb and gutter detail or remember?
Well, I think it's total project then, right?
Oh, total.
Yeah, I
project,
guess
okay.
you're assessing a project cost as opposed to units.
Yeah,
And
because
again,
that gets so difficult.
that's part of why I showed you the map for Aspen and some of those. It kind
Right.
of shows you how potentially one individual on one side of the street could have 30 feet of a, let's say, curb assessed to him, and the guy on the other side of the street potentially could have 0 or some other number, 10, as opposed to assigning the benefit of a total project cost.
I agree with total project, but I think 28 to 30, 33 would be the max. Is where
Yeah,
I
because,
would-
you have to kind of, isn't perceived value or benefit?
Benefit, yeah. Well, I
That's kind
think
of the
we
ceiling on that, or?
we had received something on one particular project, and I don't even know where it was at. It was an average, a new street and curb and gutter was valued at about $4,500. I think we had.
Benefit?
A benefit for a new curb in a residential area. I don't remember where you brought that from. Was that, they had
That
done
was-
an appraisal, was that Woodbury?
That was some of the information I received from some of the Metro Twin Cities area. I believe that was Maplewood.
Okay, it was Maplewood. I think the issue comes in at 30 or 33%. I don't think we have any trouble defending our position that benefiting property. At 50, you might. I think you would.
Just as kind of a side note on that particular example we were looking at, they were trying to come up with what that benefit was. They looked at 16 separate projects that were kind of comparable projects, similar type street projects, similar type neighborhoods, and what that benefit would be. And in the 16 comparable projects they reviewed, those 16 projects ranged in assessment from about 24% to about 40%. So there's 16 jobs in that range we're kind of talking about, so.
That was in different municipalities?
Correct, the 16 jobs it was kind of a comparable sales, like a realtor for a house would do comparable sales, and in this particular case, they looked at street projects, comparable sales in 3, 4, 5 other communities.
And based on that information, and again, Danny has the numbers, I think we give them 10 years if it's over 3,000, or is it 2? Does anybody know what that is? We're not asking the residents to come up with the money. immediately. It's paid with their taxes over a period of time.
They have the option of paying it all up front. They can pay it off over 10 years. They could pay a couple of years and pay it all off. They can,
You have
there
that,
would be interest, but we charge 2% above what we're
Oh,
charged,
maybe it's
so
in the code, I think.
it's
I
less
think it's in
than-
code.
Yeah.
Well, what was
Oh,
the old
no,
one?
here,
No, that's the old
500.
one, though.
Oh,
I believe it was, if it was over, I think it was 5,000 and 10,000, I think it was 5 years and 10 years.
Something like that.
I think it was like 1,000 a year how long you could pay it off.
I'm looking for that right now.
So
You pay more, I'm sorry.
you pay your interest,
You would pay interest on.
1% over what we're borrowing at.
Yeah, sure. And then, so much of it, you have the option every year of either paying off your installment or having it put on the property taxes. Sure.
So what I'd recommend is that we keep moving forward with this, and let's think about it, if you have anything that your thoughts on it are. Also, we need to look at commercial and decide what we would like to do if we want to do anything with commercial.
Next agenda, put it back on.
Yeah, if,
Can you input some numbers at different percentages for the next meeting?
Sure, I mean,
From
Yep.
28 to 30 or whatever?
yeah, because he did
The same
50 and
project.
33, right?
yeah.
Yeah, on the same project.
Yeah.
One question that I've got is, concrete driveway aprons. Are most of them a standard width, or do they vary a lot?
well, typically, in a reconstruct, you pretty much match what the existing homeowner has. In a position, I asked a couple of people how it turned out on Grandview, but in Grandview, again, when the lot widths are all about the same width, about 90 feet, typically they're all two-car garages, so in this particular case, I didn't go out and measure, but I'm sure they're all pretty consistent, within a couple of feet. So what a lot of communities have gone to in this but kind of a reconstruct is to put that apron, the concrete apron in. It adds consistency to that street. It helps with drainage. A lot of times if the different materials, somebody will have a concrete, somebody else have a asphalt. Sometimes people have a gravel, but the driveway apron in a lot of communities is added as a kind of a standard to the project. It's consistent. Everyone has pretty much the same size. There aren't any single driveways here, single car garages. So that was kind of the rationale why it was added back here on this particular project too.
Is that a standard for other cities to put in?
Well,
paper?
some cities do have that as a standard for their street reconstructs. I don't know if Hudson has an exact black and white standard that says that. I think in this particular case, again, when you're removing out that curb, you're gonna remove parts of that concrete apron anyway. So I would recommend doing it the way they did on Grandview, again, for the consistency, and it does help out with drainage and that type of thing as well.
And those were 30-year-old driveways, a lot of them that were cracking up, and it was a good project. It looks good. Okay, any other?
Yeah, I
Bill?
do have another question.
Yeah.
So going with the percentage, that's really a flat rate for all the residents on a street? Is that a fair
Well-
statement, or?
We could use two
Still-
ways, right? We could do it two ways, but the percentage would be the same.
Yeah, I mean, you still want the flexibility to assess on a front foot basis or a unit basis, but the starting point would be total project cost.
Right.
Now, probably can't match, if you assessed 100%, that might be higher benefit than you could achieve, so, but this third, that we're 30% that we're talking about, you'd start with the total project cost and then assess 30% of that number. How that number gets distributed, in most cases, again, like here, I just showed that whether you did it on a unit basis or whether you did it on a front foot basis, pretty much the same number, but there may be projects where it's better to do one or the other. So you want that flexibility in your
You could have
policy.
varying,
Because I'm thinking
Correct.
of our neighborhood
Yep.
specifically.
Or irregular shaped lots or that type of thing.
cul-de-sacs where you've got the angled lots.
Okay. Any thoughts for him on commercial that we can give to Tom?
Yeah, and again, I just put those example numbers in the one we just assessed this past summer.
If you
Cooley
could
Road.
talk with Denny, and maybe we go by square footage or a definition of the size of the particular box store, if you want to say, or type of commercial. Again, they're generating more traffic, but I look at some of the offices that are on dentist's office or a law office, they're not generating the same amount as Target or Walmart or, and they don't have the truck traffic. So should they pay 100% because they're an office versus a big box store or a restaurant?
Yeah, those small traffic generators would be, I think, a little tough on an appeal standpoint.
Yep.
For the reasons you just mentioned.
So
And
if we
again,
could do it on a zoning issue or maybe square footage, I don't know if that's a fair way to do it, but I think if there's.
we could
some-
take a look at that, because typically a square footage is gonna be tied in with parking and traffic. You know, you get a 200,000 square foot building.
They gotta have
That's
parking.
gonna be a lot of parking and a lot of traffic.
Yeah,
So, yeah, we could
Okay.
put a couple example numbers together.
all right.
Relative to some of that type of thing as well.
Denny, you have anything you want to add on that? Okay. Anybody else have anything? Thank you, Tom.
Sure.
Appreciate it. Next item is discussion possible action on ordinance 9-15.
Essentially, what you're doing is approving an updated park map. The park board went through updated everything, and we have to update the ordinance to reflect that. So that's essentially what this is.
I'll move to suspend the rules.
Is there a second?
Second. Oh, sorry, Jess.
Roll call? Do we have to, roll call to suspend? Yep.
Morset,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Haggett,
Yes.
Alms.
Yes.
Motion to approve?
I'll move to approve ordinance
9.
number 9-15.
I'll second.
Discussion? I think you have all that information in the, anything? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. For future agenda items, common council members, anything that you'd like to add? City attorney? City administrator?
Just a reminder that for anybody that's interested in running for one of the council seats or the mayor, that the deadline is Tuesday, January 5th at 5 p.m. for the papers to be returned. And that if you're going to run, you need to file a couple documents before you start circulating to get signatures. So, and Leanne can assist with that if you need help.
So during this holiday season, I'd like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And with all the turmoil that we've had in our world the last 6 months to a year, maybe we have peace on earth and goodwill to all people. So is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? We're adjourned.